everyone, and welcome to another episode of Home Service Hustle. I'm your host, Jonathan Bannister, and today I'm with Derek Vacca. And Derek is joining us from Nashoba Air and BoilerWorks. Derek, thank you for being here, man.
Yeah, no, thanks for having me.
All right, so look, one thing I was super intrigued with your bio is you're 40 years old and you've been in the HVAC world for 26 years. So like, take us back to the beginning, like how did you get into it? And then what caused you to be, I think what I read was like, you're going to be here forever. So.
Yeah, man. I mean, at this point, I can't go anywhere, right? I'm locked in. So I started when I was 14 years old. My parents were old school, right? They kicked us out the house, once fifth grade going into sixth grade. They were like, you guys are getting to work with Richie Anise, who's a big developer who bought some land off my parents, built a big old house behind them. And me and my older brother, Billy, were about a year apart. And we'd clean up Richie's job sites 2-3 days a week, starting fifth grade, going into sixth grade. And, I worked with Richie right through eighth grade. And then I was going to vocational school, Shawshene Tech, out of Billerica, Massachusetts. And Richie basically told me, hey, you're taking ACR, which is air conditioning and refrigeration, or HVAC, in the tech next year. And I was like, I think I want to do like robotics or something, because my father is like a self-made robotics engineer. And he was like, nope. He's like, you're taking HVAC, and instead of working with me this summer, you're working with a company called BJ Doyle Heating and Air Conditioning. He's like, I already got you the job. You start on Monday. So I was like, all right. And, that Monday I got picked up by BJ Doyle and I started wrapping duct and putting together tin. And, that's kind of where my HVAC career started. Went through vocational school, and, your freshman year, you kind of take like all the different shops, to kind of explore what you want to do. Right. And, I ended up taking ACR or HVAC, and, fast forward 26 years later, here I am.
So walk us through what were the progressions of your career? Like kind of you started out wrapping duck, and then what were the ranks through the years that got you now to general manager?
Sure. So started out with install, right? Started out with install, wrapping duck, putting together tin, eventually hanging tin. Stayed on the install side of things right through the co-op program through the tech, Shawshene Tech. So in install, I'd say right up till my senior year of high school. And then from there, I actually got a job through the co-op program with a big commercial company out of Boston, out of Malden, Massachusetts.
Okay.
And so I started doing like PMs on the commercial side of things, right? So got a little bit familiar with that. I actually was in the union for a bit. So, worked on some really big buildings, ductwork you could drive a, small car through.
Yeah.
But always fell back to the resi side of things. And I was a pretty good installer, so that progressed into install manager. And then I was working for a small mom and pop company, and it was 2009. And it was when that, the recession hit, and man, it hit hard. We were doing a lot of new construction homes. We were doing like 3 to 4 homes a week. That turned into 2, 3, 4 homes a month, right? And in 2010, a company, local plumbing company that was trying to start up air conditioning or HVAC, department, reached out to us and said, hey guys, why don't you come work for me? So I was running the install side. The guy that was already with me on that small mom and pop company, he went to the service side, and that's what started my sales career. I got introduced to like the ACT group. We were trained comfort specialists at the time, got introduced to the ACT group, got introduced to like Charlie Greer training, Joe Crisera, right? And that's when things shifted for me. Okay. And, I was 25 years old. I was newly married, had a baby on the way. And I made my first $100,000, at like 25 years old.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh shit, like you can make some money like doing this, right? Yeah. My next year in sales, and I was still running the install department as well, helping grow that. And then my next year in sales, I made $120,000. So I was like, all right, and that's when like things started getting really serious, So I stayed with that company for about 4 years. And then I ended up moving down to South Carolina with my wife and I, and we had our second child on the way. And I worked for a big American Standard dealer outside of Charleston, South Carolina. Went back to like the install sales manager type role, right? And then eventually came back to Massachusetts, stayed into management. I always make a joke. I was like, I made the stupid decision to stay into management and not stay into sales, right? But in hindsight, where I'm at today, I couldn't ask for anything else, So roughly was in the sales side of things up until I was about 29, 30, and then progressed to be where I am today. I've been at Nashoba Air and BoilerWorks for this is going to be my 9th year. Started as a service manager. They brought me on because they needed to grow their service division. I actually came in here for a sales position. And they were like, Derek, we'd love to see you and help train our guys to get some processes in place and, get these guys selling while they're in the home, right? With like 5 techs, they were stuck at like $500,000 worth of revenue. My first year in, we did about $1 million, and then that progressed to $1.5 million. And then I transitioned to service sales manager up until, my old owners, Sean and Kerry Kelly, awesome people. Kerry really taught me the ropes in the industry and how to actually manage, how to actually watch the numbers, how to build processes. Super, super smart woman. And they sold to Sela, who now owns Nashoba Air and BoilerWorks today. And I've been the general manager for 3 years now since they left.
So walk us through some of those processes, right? Like you talk about you wanted to, you were looking to get a sales position. They saw something else in you that you could help with that was missing, right? And so what were some of those? How established was the company at that point, right?
And they were a $5 million company at that point.
$5 million company. What processes were missing that once you kind of dove in there and analyzed things, and then what did you put into place, and what does it look like today?
Sure. Yeah. When I first got in, it was technicians were working till 8, 9 o'clock at night, right? Okay. Like even when they would finish a maintenance, we got another maintenance, let's bring it in, right? We got a demand call, right? But the Ford is full, so we can't fit any demand calls in today, right? So it was very much just take care of what's on the board and not sending right tech to right call, right? Or looking, really, dispatching for dollars, right? I mean, we all know sometimes you got to push maintenances off, to get the no heats, the no coolings, demand calls on the board, right? So it was really structuring like time frames. Like, okay, we have a 7:30 to 8 first call. We got an 8 to noon. We got a, noon to 10 to 2 and a noon to 4, right? So really structuring the calls. And we do it a little bit different now, but at first, that's really what it was like. And, letting the tech slow down in the home. One, teaching them how to sell. They didn't know how to sell. They didn't know how to offer options, right? And it was because they always just knew the next call was behind them, and they'd be working until 7, 8 o'clock at night. So really just being the voice of being like, all right, guys, like, I got you, right? Let's slow down. Like, I'll deal with dispatchers, CSRs, and the owners, right? But let's put some structure in place. Let's dispatch for dollars. Let's really do right tech, right call. And when you're in the home, like, I need to teach you guys how to communicate and sell, because that was my background, right? The sales side of things. And, doing so just progressed to where we are today. We came from 4 or 5 techs, to Nashoba today. We have 13 service techs, 3 warranty startup techs, 4 plumbers, 4 electricians, 8 install crews, so, it went from when I came on at 5 million doing roughly, 18 to $20 million this year.
So I'm sure there's gonna be a lot of people listening that have been or are currently in that same place that you described, because when summer gets here, right, or when the extreme cold gets here, they go into that, our board's busy, our board is slammed, we got to get to these calls. And what you're saying is you had to change the whole culture of the way the business was currently running, because it was call after call after call, rush. There's no way to give that customer the proper time and care that they need, or to build the value up that they would ever entertain any of those other options given, because they're like, well, you were here 40 minutes. Like, now you want to try to sell me this, these other add-ons and things. So how important truly is that? And I know it's not this easy thing to necessarily balance, but it's like you have to put the time and resources into that customer instead of dollars, right? Like you got to make that the priority instead of, because you can run a lot more calls, but like those calls also have cost to them, right? And if you're not taking your time and you're just getting this super low average ticket, then what's the point in running all the calls?
What's the point? Exactly. And, when, let's face it, techs, they're delicate people, right? Yeah. They really are, right? Yeah. And they feel that stress, they feel that rush, right, from the office side of things. So, really telling them like, hey guys, like, just slow down, pump the brakes, right? One customer at a time. Don't worry about you needing to get out, right? I'll make sure that you get out, right? Let's put a process in place. Let's slow down. Let's give you guys a spiff and a bonus program, right? That's another thing that we implemented, right, that really got them like chomping at the bit, right? And to really teach them communication and sales, right? Like even till today, I talk to a lot of companies like within our umbrella, right? Like we have 38 companies within the CELA umbrella, right? I'm in the technicians meetings at least 2 times per month, just teaching communication. Right? Really, like how to flip a call, how to really sell like an air cleaner, right? How to even just sell a bundle of like, a capacitor, coil cleaning, and a hard start kit, right? Like if you don't teach the communication side of it, it's like, you just send them into nothing, right? Yeah. So teaching them that, I think, has really, really helped and drive the growth here. But also, I mean, some techs don't like to be salesy, right? So like it's funny, I developed like a small, sales training platform myself called Speaking People, right? And it's like, you don't ever sell anyone they don't want, need, or can afford, right? But they don't know either of those 3 things until you actually educate them and have the conversation. So we call it the EIOs, right? Educate, inform, offer, right? So again, just by slowing them down, telling them that like the true CSR is like, listen, we have your back. If you sell out for the day on your first job, that's what we want, right? So it all comes back to the communication and training. It really does. And we were super, they never had that before I came on. Yeah. And since then, right, and I have a great service manager in place now, Tommy, and, we still hold meetings every week, and it's the numbers, but it's also hey, what are you guys seeing out there? What are the challenges? And then how do we communicate that back, right? Let's role play it. Right. I think most companies within this industry miss the buck on that part of it, of like role playing it back and really teaching them this is how I would do it. Right. But at the same time, you have to have a strong communicator. Not all service managers are strong communicators. Right. So maybe you got to take the owner. Maybe you got to take your top salesperson. Maybe you got to take your sales manager. Right. Get them in that meeting. Make sure they're having those conversations.
Yeah. What I liked what you said there was the role playing, but it's almost you're asking them to communicate. What are you hearing out there? What kind of pushback are you getting, and you're making it an open forum, and then you're giving your advice, or the sales manager's giving their advice and say like, well, this is how I would handle it. And then you're asking the next person, well, how would you handle it? And I think when you can see your peers or someone who's done it before or is actually doing it with you and hearing what their feedback, instead of coming from a place of, this is the way to do it, go do it, right? And there's only one way to do it. And I think those training methods is what causes a lot of people fail. It's like, hey, this is our process, and you never deviate from it. And it's like, well, there's never say never, right? And it's like, I think everything deserves an open conversation to say like, is there a better way to present this? Because if a lot of people are getting that same shutdown and pushback, well, maybe there's something wrong there, right?
Right. And at the end of the day, I mean, let's face it, people like to communicate with people.
Yeah.
Right? They can tell from a mile away whether you're fake or whether you're just reading from a book or reading from a process. Like, no, just, be genuine, actually educate them and be confident based off of your price and what you're offering. Right? And be ready to bend a little bit. Like I've worked with companies like, let's just say, and again, out of our area, we're a pretty expensive company. Let's face it. You're not buying a furnace for us under $12,000. Like, and that's like an 80%, 60,000 BTU with no mods, no nothing, right? So as you get into the 2-stage modulating, you're in $20,000+ at some of these things. We have this program called Mass Save up here. I don't know if you're familiar with it.
Yeah, I am.
Yeah, it's an absolute nightmare. It's a blessing and a curse, double-edged sword. Yeah. No, but, honestly, a circulator pump for us, well over $1,000 for a standard circ pump going on a boiler, right? Like, be ready to bend. Like, if you're the technician in the home and, if you're at $1,500 for a circ pump, the homeowner's like, give them the tools to be like, okay, what would make you comfortable? I'm here now. What would make you comfortable? Knowing I can't do it for free, right? Knowing I can't do it even for $800, I'm at 15. Where do we meet in the middle? Right? For whatever reason, there's so many companies that are just like, nope, this is the line. This is the line. Yeah. Like your tech is in the home. They're professionals. Do you trust them? Like, let them bend a little bit, right? And I think, again, we're not perfect. Don't get me wrong. Nashoba Air and BoilerWorks is not perfect, but we have a lot of longevity. I mean, we have technicians that have been here 23 years, 15 years, 11 years, 12, 5, 3. We have longevity of employees, and I think that is honestly because we put the trust back on them to be like, hey guys, like, you're the professional. We'll give you the tools. We'll give you the truck. We'll give you the stock, right? When you're in the home, our job's to make a profit, not to leave there with a diag only because you have an upset customer. Yeah. Like, hey, pump the brakes. What are you looking for? Okay, is it price? Okay, how do I get over that objection, right? If they don't have the tools to do that as technicians, sales is a totally different conversation, right? But as technicians, if they don't have those tools, I mean, they're done, right? They're just going to walk out of the home. They're going to be frustrated, and they're going to keep jumping ship.
It's interesting you say that. I did an interview a couple weeks ago with a company. I think it was called Call Dad, and they're a big company, and but the general manager, she told me that one thing that had made a big shift in their organization was with their CSR, customer service team, that they gave them the power to make decisions and be able to give credit back and refunds and when they did that, like, it made this huge shift because they felt like they had the power to do something instead of just getting yelled at on the phone and then, let me go talk to my supervisor who then gets back to the customer alone. They just evaluate the problem and they know that there's these steps or levels that they're allowed to make decisions on. And so I love the giving power back to the technicians. I can see where that would make a huge, improvement with their overall, demeanor around the customers and everything else, because they're not stuck in this home. And knowing the person's like, well, I want it, but I can't afford it. And then they're like, all right, well, I'm out of here. See you.
Yeah, exactly. What good does that get anybody, right?
Right.
The company, the owner, the technician, the homeowner, everybody loses.
Yep. All right. So given your background and the fact that you're known for driving a sales team and speaking your mind, as you told us in the bio, like, how do these traits influence the way that you run the business today?
Yeah, being the general manager, I live a lot in the sales world of the business day to day. Like, my sales team is my baby, and I think I've created a pretty consistent sales team. Like, and it's funny. I do listen to your podcast, by the way, and I listened to the Victor Rancourt episode. Where he was talking about the Southern California salespeople are dogs, right? And, I personally believe that the Northeast has some of the best salespeople in the country. One, they have to be the most knowledgeable on everything from steam, hydro air, oil, gas, propane, heat pumps, mini splits. I mean, you name it. You got to know your shit. You really do. because you're working outside the Boston area, like Concord, Massachusetts. If you know anything about like disc profiles, right? That's one thing I teach pretty heavily, right? Like everybody's a high D. Nobody has time outside of Boston, including myself. Like if you come into my home selling me a garage door or whatever shit you're selling and you're taking your time and going and you're robot, I'm going to be like, get out. I don't have the time for this. And honestly, majority of our clients, that's how they are. They're very educated, and it's a very saturated area for home service companies. It really is. So you have to be on your game selling, okay? And the great thing about it is, again, we have some sister companies that are pretty close to us, and we have some legit sales guys, including some people on my team that consistently closing. Like, one of my top guys, was approaching 3 million in sales, closing at almost 50% close rate. Like for this area, that's like unheard of. Especially throw in the whole mass save deal. Now we have mass save coaches where, a homeowner wants to go through the mass save program and do like a whole home heat pump, right, for their house, which means completely getting rid of their fossil fuel and go into a whole home heat pump, right? So Mass Save incentivizes them like $10,000 to do so. So you switch to a whole home heat pump that's on our list with a qualified contractor, you get $10,000 back towards this install. Great, right? So now, though, they have coaches that they assign to you that helps you pick the contractor. And every coach says get 3 to 4 estimates, right? So now, we're going into a home that has a coach quite often that it's like, hey, get 3 to 4 estimates. All right, you have Nashoba Air's quote. Why don't you go down the street and get, Joe Schmo's quote? I can bet you they can do it $5,000 cheaper, right? Thankfully, we have a great reputation in our area. So even like the coaches themselves, like, they recommend us, right? Which is great. But it's a very, very challenging sales atmosphere. It really is. But the consistency on my team, it's like, I think 4 out of my 7 guys are all closing over 2.5 million. One's approaching 3 for the year. But as a team, we're closing at about 43% for the year, nice. Which is, it's very, very solid for this area, but it's the same deal with the sales team, right? That's where I live, and it's daily. What type of job do you have? Right? Hey, Derek, I'm at the table. Can you help me close it? Yep. Get them on the phone, right? Just constantly trying to be available. And again, just weekly meetings, man. And that's what we start our meetings with. Like, okay, let's go around the horn. Here's Titan up on the board, right? Okay. Jim, you're struggling this week. What's going on, right? Like, get it out in the open. They all have, a minute to 2 minutes, right? And then it's like, all right, guys, what can Jim do, right? And then it gets all the way from Jim to Tom. And Tom's, he's my most senior guy. And it's funny. Tom's like, if you look or talk to him, he's not a sales guy at all, but he's so Boston. It's hilarious. Like, yeah, what do you want? All right. Like, but he sells $3+ million a year. And again, it's just staying on top of them, man. It really is. And making sure that their follow-up, we have some tools too, like we have Chirp that goes behind them, follows up them. We follow up with happy calls within 24 hours. We have a rehash salesperson that's following up, if they're struggling with their close rate. So, I mean, it's just keeping that consistency, honestly. That's what it's all about.
Yeah, consistency is the key, on the operations, on the sales side. It's getting that process in place that you see as working. Like you said, nothing's perfect. You guys aren't perfect, but that consistency will, outperform almost any other company out there that is inconsistent, right? And it doesn't really matter what they're doing, because it's too hard to scale and grow and have people rowing the boat in different directions, right? You're always never going to hit the destination. Right. All right, so let's talk a little bit more about the team and the culture. So, like, how do you ensure that your team remains motivated and aligned with the company's goals, right? Especially when, like, you're known for being direct and having a strong sales focus. So, how do you keep that motivation and alignment?
Transparency, number one, making sure everybody knows, what we're rowing into, right? Okay, here's the goal. every month. That's broken down by department and by the daily goal so they can track it. It's funny, I actually, we just had a managers and team lead this morning, right? And so like, okay, for November, our goal for November is $1,419,000, right? That's $68,444 per day. This is for the install, right? That's $8,555 per day per crew for 8 crews. We're 7 days in, or we've completed $371,312. There's 11 days left, $860,000. That's $78,244 per day. That's $9,780 per crew per day, right? So now, like, for everybody knowing those numbers just on the install side, so if a sales call does come in, right, and let's just say it's a no heat, but it's a 2-day job, right? Knowing that we have to get $9,780 per day, right? Let's say a 2-day job comes in at 16 grand, right? Well, that's $8,000 per day. What happened? Right. And just being transparent and letting everybody really know the numbers, where we need to be. I have some managers that do a really, really good job at that, and team leads as well. Like, my install coordinator, Jaslyn, she's a team lead, just making sure that her and John, my install ops manager, are constantly talking back and forth. Okay, what do we have? Where can we put it? Is it going to help us hit our goal? Right. At the end of the day, everybody wants to win. So if you're sharing those numbers and you're consistently winning, again, we don't win every month. Don't get me wrong. Like the beginning of this year, we're going to fall short of our goal by about $1 million this year, right? My goal is 19.5. I'm going to end at between 18 to 18.5. But that's all right. We're still profitable. EBITDA is still positive. It's still strong. So we're running great. And so just being transparent so everybody knows that, I just think that's what builds the culture, right? And at the same time, I do speak my mind, but I'm very approachable, right? And that's my service manager, Tommy, John, my install ops manager, Mandy, my office manager. Like, everybody is just, it just seems like the place you would want to work. It really does. But we've done a good job, I think, at really building that, right? One thing that's
Where
super
did that
unique.
Transparency come from? I'm sorry.
I think
was that something you implemented, or was it there?
It's always been a part. It has always been a part of Nashoba Air, but when the old owners sold, right, there was that first year, there was some uncertainty. Right? Like, people were like, oh shit, like Sean and Kerry left. Like, now we're owned by a PE firm. Like, oh, what's going to go on? Right. And I had a great relationship with our regional vice president, who since has left that PE firm. But I think, we made it our goal, first of all, to be like, all right, nothing's changing. Like, we're still the Nashoba Air, but guess what? We're going to make sure people get paid more money. Right. And we're going to make sure that this is even better than what Sean and Kerry left it, right? And I think it did take like a full 6 months to a year for people to see that, because we're left alone. Like, our PE firm doesn't bother us much. It's like, you're profitable. You guys are doing great. You have great, why step in, right? So it's, we put a lot of effort, and we still put a lot of effort to, barbecues, to, getting food trucks here, getting ice cream, buying pizza, end of year parties, all the stuff that sounds cheesy, but I think really holds people together and makes people want to work here. I really do. And at the end of the day, they're paid very well. One thing that, I'm super proud of is, I think since I became general manager, I've had 3 technicians and/or installers buy homes, right? And like, on the younger generation too, like in their 20s, right? And they're making an extra $2,000, $3,000, $4,000 a month in bonus from CTOs to selling bundles and spiffs and 5-star reviews, and just really like playing the game. And I mean, to me, that's I feel good about that, right? Because now, like, that's exactly what I wanted. Like, that's what I want the culture to be like here. Like, hey, Joe, I want you to go buy a home before you're 30 years old. How are we going to get you there? Well, I have a plan. I know our plans works because it worked for Evan and it worked for William. Like, let's see if we can get you to here, right? And Tommy, my service manager, John, my ops manager, I think all of us are just on that same page where we want to see them win, like us aside. Yeah, money's great, but at the end of the day, to see technicians win, I mean, I don't know, just, gives you the warm and fuzzies, right? And I'm dead serious about that. I really am. It's like, these are the next, up and comers that, hopefully take the service manager position or sales position or GM position, right? Give them the tools to do it, right?
So you said that y'all more than likely are going to miss the goal this year by $1 million. Like, what were some of the big reasons you think that y'all are going to miss it?
Ooh, it was a tough first quarter in our area. The Mass Save program really took a different route last quarter of 2024. And, the headwinds just went into 2025. And we felt it, we really did. And, for whatever reason, and again, we have 38 companies within our platform, right? Okay. And you can clearly see, we have like a daily pace report that goes out. Like, we have companies from the Midwest, Mid-Atlantic, New York, Connecticut region, our region, Virginia, Maryland. I mean, you name it, right? 38 companies now. And you could see it big time in the New England region, just constant headwinds of, it being slower. I would say like 30 to 40% of our leads, our sales leads, are for Mass Save. And again, the Mass Save program just took a huge hit, like going into this year and getting rid of the whole fossil fuels and going with that $10,000 rebate, with the A2L, and going to, changing refrigerants from 410A, having equipment issues. I mean, you name it. Things really didn't start picking up till like May, June. And then we had some catching up to do. And there's 8 other companies within my region of the New England region. So, we've just been grinding. So for whatever reason, first quarter was tough this year. It really was. And that's what put us behind. We've made up a ton of ground. So again, we're gonna finish $1 million short. We'll still have year-over-year growth, which is great. But I'm focusing now on the already 2026, right? Where do we need to get to? There's no way we're going into a first quarter like we did this year. Like, I actually just had a meeting this morning, like, hey guys, here's the plan, right? With team leads, managers, like, here's the plan. Like, we all need to get focused on it now, communicating that back. We need to make sure that we're staffed correctly. I just had my marketing call right before this. I have my marketing call every Wednesday at 11, right? So it's like, all right, how are we getting set up, all the way to like a Black Friday deal that we're rolling out next week, for selling for 2 weeks for, generators, car chargers, mini splits, that we're going to start installing, February through the end of March, just to make sure that, we're at least moving in the right direction, right?
So I would say the last probably 20 companies I've interviewed, nobody's going to hit their goal for 2025, right? I'm sure that with all the other companies that are part of y'all's platform. But everybody has a different theory of why, so I always find it interesting to hear, yours seemed a lot, more realistic, that you can like pinpoint, that program making a big shift, and y'all saw it and just kind of carried in. It's funny though, because our service, we ran the numbers, right? And our marketed sales leads have been down all year. Our call turnovers, CTOs, our call turnovers from technicians, to sales. Last year we finished at 2.5 million total. We're already at 4.5 million total for this year, and our service is up 16% year over year. So people are fixing more and or relying on, technicians telling them what to do, rather than go online and find, a new furnace, a new air conditioning system, whatever, right?
So we've been leaning heavy. I developed a whole new membership plan this year. Yeah. We've been leaning heavy on that with, it has wave diagnostics, 120-day, no breakdown guarantee. Like, we're really digging into these plans for the customers, get us in the home. We're going to take care of you. And, at the end of the day, it's techs in the door, right? And if you have techs in the door and you can communicate well, right, make sure they're trained. And that's what's kept us going. I'm telling you, if we didn't have that, if we didn't have the CTOs we had this year, or we didn't have the conversions on, memberships and or, service tickets, we'd be screwed, we'd be in the water, just done. But it's funny, you hit a headwind and you just find another way, right? Yeah. Like, that's the resiliency of this business. It's like, it's not just a one trick pony where it's just like install. It's like, okay, yeah, install is what makes the revenue, but it's like, memberships are just as important, because if you're not in the home and you're not getting marketed calls, what are you doing? Right?
Yeah. I got this huge smile, right? Because I love hearing that, because we over the past year talked to some very successful companies that have had to make some shifts to, hey, look, the COVID days are over. Those mass installs, years are over. And we realize that where we have picked up, where we've lost, is because we pivoted and we're picking up memberships and we're making that a priority, because if we get in the homes, we know what our maintenance average is, right? So we just launched a company this year. We're doing our, we've put it together this whole year, but we're going out actually next week to do our first company, and then we're back to back after that. But we put together a door-to-door canvassing, like done for you company, but it's for the non-traditional canvassing companies, right? So we're going up to Maryland next week to do our first for a big air conditioning plumbing company. But then that owner, luckily, I don't even know how we picked him first, but he used to do door-to-door for a big solar company like 7 or 8 years ago, and now he owns his own HVAC and plumbing company. But they have their numbers so dialed in. He goes, we know exactly what our average maintenance ticket is if we can get inside that home, right? So it's like, we're going up there for 5 days next week with a expert team of canvassers that work for us that'll and we sent like this mail, like it's the, I call it the Joe Biden mail. It's the auto pen, but it'll auto pen, and it comes in like a regular envelope to the customer, right? Like it's like grandma sent you a letter, but it basically just says like, hey, my name's Ryan Grimes, and I'm the owner of Beltway Home Services, and our team's going to be in your neighborhood over the next week or two, and they're going to be giving complimentary heating tune-ups. Our way of giving back to the community. It's a little short sentence, and then we made AI video, and we're locking on to those same 2,500 homes that we're going to knock, and we're doing addressable geofencing. So like 4 times a day, they're going to see that ad on one of their devices. But our goal is to go up there and set like 150 or 200 of these. He's told his maintenance guys from 1 to 7 p.m. those 5 days, they're in the neighborhoods with their trucks, and their trucks have these like rocket ships on top of them. They're like pretty cool trucks, but they're going to try to like set them and like have them pull up and like do the appointment right then and there. Yeah. But it's cool to hear these companies say, we believe in maintenance, and we believe in these, growing our club membership. We know, those numbers you just said are crazy. The improvement that you did from last year to this year on your maintenance side or your service side that y'all are seeing the increase of. Yeah.
Getting back to the roots of, the true blue collar fixing things, being in the home, talking to technicians, who knew, right?
Well, I think that's where you build the trust and the credibility.
I agree. I totally agree. One thing that's really unique about us is, we do roughly $18 million worth of business in a 30-mile or less radius. And we have some other companies like around us that, will travel up to an hour, right? Like most of my techs are home for dinner by 5, 6 o'clock because they're not fighting we don't even go into Boston. No, like our old owners did such a good job of making Nashoba Air and BoilerWorks like the company and when they were here, it was like a 20-mile radius. we had to, when we got to 15 million, our parent company was like, hey, Derek, you think maybe we can go like 30 miles? Maybe we can get a little bit more growth. And I was like, yeah, sure. Why don't we go 30, right? Like, so literally 30-mile radius, up to like 30 to 40-minute drive time from Littleton, Massachusetts, right? Like it's unheard of within our area to be almost $20 million worth of business and, going about a half hour in radius. So It just goes to show, like, our old owners, that's what they wanted to do. They wanted to prove to the community, like, we are the company. Like, we can take care of you. We are the company. Keep coming back. And I think we do. I think we have a great customer base. Like, we have like 6,000 members that just, year after year after year. And I think we got like a 70% renewal rate, on those members. And, and then our new memberships just constant. I think our new membership sales as of September, from what I remember, for last year was at 1,100. And this year we're at 1,600 new memberships sold.
Wow.
By September.
How much do y'all charge? What does that billing look like?
Yeah, so I revamped the whole membership. So it's 2 plans. It's the Nashoba Single, which is $289, which includes 4 visits, wave diagnostic, 120-day no breakdown guarantee, plus a bunch of other perks, and then $659 for the Nashoba Whole Home. And it's right on our website, but basically your Nashoba Single is like single furnace with air conditioning system, right? And it comes with a heat visit, cooling visit, plumbing visit, electrical visit, as well as your membership perks, which is like no diag fees, no after-hour fees, 120-day no breakdown guarantee. Once we perform the maintenance in the home, electrical inspection, plumbing inspection, our membership newsletter monthly that you get, perks on home performance things like EV chargers, generators, like money off those things like that, the air cleaners. And then the Nashoba Whole Home is any 2 systems or, multi-zone mini split systems and or a boiler with like hydro air handlers, things like that. So we had like in Titan last year, 2024, we had like, no lie, like 20 different memberships, which was a goddamn nightmare. It was a nightmare, dude. And this year we simplified it to 2. And next year we're doing 3 because we are doing 1 in the middle. It'll be $289, $459, and $659, and it all depends on the amount of equipment that you have in the home.
Do you bill monthly or one-time fee?
You have the option. You can do annual or monthly. And believe it or not, we do better. I know statistics, nationwide, it's like monthly. We do better with an annual payment.
Okay.
I don't know why. I would say upwards of 3/4 of our membership sales are an annual payment.
That's interesting.
And I don't know what it is, but yes, we do offer monthly.
I mean, probably people are just sick of being monthly billed to death, so like their cell phones and their internet and everything else. So it's like, fuck it. Let me just pay this $300 and be done with it. I'll save 4 times a year.
And we live in we work in a very affluent area also. We're in like Concord, Massachusetts, Lexington, Bedford, Acton, Westford, Weston, Wayland, some really, old money towns, right? So I think to them also, it's just like, here's my credit card, just charge it all. You know what I mean? Like, and a lot of these customers are existing customers too, so I think they're just like, Nashoba Air, here's my money, I'll see you 4 times this year. That's great.
So y'all have built a brand, right? And especially in that 30-mile radius. Yeah. What, speaking of brand, like what are y'all doing? Do y'all look at those separate from, like, what are we spending and doing to strengthen that brand awareness in the 30-mile radius? And then what are we doing for quote unquote like lead generation?
Yeah. So, I mean, our marketing structure and budget, I have a regional marketer who watches like over our company as well as other, I think like 4 or 5 others. Right. Okay. And like my marketing meetings every Wednesday, I have a marketing coordinator in-house. Her name's Lizzie. She's awesome. Like she's making a video, a social thing for us for our turkey drive. We do a turkey drive every year where, you can get, wave diagnostic to bring in like non-perishables and or donate turkey frozen turkey, and we put it in our freezer, and then we donate it to the food bank, local food bank, right? So so I have Anthony, who's our regional person, and then Lizzie, who's in-house. But I mean, we do everything from all your social platforms to LSA to PPC, to programmatic audio, to mailers, direct mailers. We do some of your geo stuff too. We do a lot of mailers based off of where we're doing installs and what neighborhood and where we're sending those mailers. Like, hey, we'll be in the neighborhood, or hey, we were just in the neighborhood. So, there's so many different avenues. And next year, we're actually looking to brand, depending on what the marketing budget comes in at. We're looking at even like TV and like YouTube and things like that, even a little bit more as well. Yeah. So looking to expand the branding side a little bit more. Yeah.
But y'all do everything still within that 30-mile radius.
Yeah, we go again. Just recently, we've picked some towns like closer to like Worcester, Mass. That's like we're going a little bit outside of our bubble. We're trying to be strategic about it, though. We're really trying to pick like, okay, where do we want to go? Where does it make the most sense to go? And what's right off of like 495, right? The main highway, right? So, we're trying to be strategic about it. But yeah, we are branching out a little bit.
All right. So we are at the time of the show where I do the rapid fire questions. So I'll ask you some questions, Derek. You just shoot from the hip.
All right.
Childhood hero.
Ooh, childhood hero. It was Michael Jordan when I was a childhood hero.
All right. Yeah. Beach or mountain?
Beach.
Where do you go to the beach?
Yeah, I mean the beach is freezing freaking cold up here, so it's it's not as nice as like Florida, but okay. I love them both. We mountain bike, we snowboard, but I mean, take me to the Caribbean, man. I'll go to the beach all day.
Yeah, I'm with you. A famous person that you would invite to dinner, they can be dead or alive.
Ooh, that's a good one. I'd go like, what was his name? I was just listening to an audiobook. I'm a big hunter and like fisher. I love, fishing and hunting. And I was just listening to an audiobook from Clay Newcomb, who's like a part of Meat Eater.
Okay.
And it was this Native American, this Indian who was like a badass, like war hero Indian. Oh, I forget his name though. And I was listening to it and I was like, man, that guy would be pretty cool to meet. That whole like Native American culture, if I could go back then, that's like the one period I would go back to. So something within that.
All right. So Derek wants to have dinner with Geronimo. All right.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. Most adventurous thing you've ever done?
Ooh. When I was 20 years old, took off for 3 months and just went with two buddies to Australia.
Really? How was that?
Yeah, it was pretty awesome. It was great. Yeah, talk about the beach. I mean, Sydney, Australia, right? We planned on traveling the whole country, and we met some other travelers like along our way, and just basically spent our whole 3 months in Bondi Beach. Big party area. It was a blast in your early 20s.
Have you ever listened to Green Lights?
Oh, by Matthew McConaughey?
Yeah.
Yeah, love it.
He talks about that trip, him going to Australia. Yeah. That's where my brain went as soon as I heard you say that.
So my oldest, I have 3 kids. My oldest is 13, and I listen to Green Lights once a year. And I just got him to listen to it for the first time.
Oh, that's super
cool. My 13-year-old. Yeah.
That's super cool. Yeah, I'd started halfway through, and I told my wife, I was like, man, just listen to one part of this. And then she was like, would you just start it over and watch it, listen to it? And I was like, absolutely. Yeah. So it's like, it's been one of her favorite audiobooks. If I know we said you're going to be HVAC for life, but the question is, if you had to make a sudden career change, what would it be?
Man, I'd be like a hunting guide. Yeah. Take people up to the mountains, hunting guide, Those guys are
That's
badass.
got to be like a dream job for someone that loves hunting, right?
Dude, they're badass. Yeah, me and a buddy, we went to a bear hunt up in on the Canadian border this past September, and the hunting guide, his name was Ray. He was in his 60s, and he was like, this guy was just like ripped. He was so buff, and he was just so badass. Like his stories of going to Alaska still till today, and I was like, man, if I could be anyone, this guy is so cool. Yeah, I'd be a hunting guide.
All right. And the last one is, does Derek believe in aliens?
I do not believe in aliens. No. I wish I could. I really wish I could. But I'm the type, like, show me something. And some of these videos, like, again, I love Rogan, by the way. I love listening to Rogan, too. But some of these videos are such bullshit. They really are. And it's like, just show me something. Like, I have to feel it, right? Like, I am a pretty religious person, right? But I feel faith, because I can't justify just the Big Bang Theory. I can't. Like, to me, that's more chance than, like, Jesus ever walking the earth, right? Aliens, I'm just like, I don't know, show me something. If they're real, you know. But the other part of that is, like, would you say just like a fungus, for instance, or a molecule is considered an alien, like on another planet?
Right.
Because part of me does think, like, maybe there's some type of living organism. But is it intelligent creature? I don't think there's an intelligent creature on another planet, no.
Yeah. I mean, I think of aliens as in just a different form of life than us, but then it's hard for me, and I'm with you. Like, I need to see it as well. Like, that's the way I also learn, is I'm a visual person. So it's like, it's hard for me to wrap my head around things that don't exist, or, you know, to our knowledge. But it's also hard when I look at the videos at how small of a speck the earth is compared to everything that's out there. Then it's real hard for me to wrap my head around, like, you know, God loves us, but I don't think he loves us this much that we're the only thing on this one ball, and there's like millions and billions of those balls that exist out there. But you know, hopefully one day, you know, we get off the earth and we can figure something out. So
I know.
Well, dude, I've thoroughly enjoyed the conversation, and wish you guys the best the rest of 25 and a super successful 26. I appreciate you coming on the show, man.
Yeah, man. Appreciate it. Thank you. You know, thanks for the invite. It was a blast.